All right, guys, so if you remember yesterday, we were doing the beginning stages of our candy cladogram project. Um, Before we get started with the next couple steps, I just want to review a couple of things. First, I want to remind you of our objectives. I want you to make sure you have those written down in your notebooks. That way you can reference them when you're thinking about this later on for the exam. I also want to remind you of the standards that we have associated with this. You don't necessarily need to write the standards down, but I do want you to be aware of what the outcomes of our learning should be. So if you remember yesterday, we looked at candy bars. We filled out a table that had to do with candy bars, that had to do with their traits. And we also discussed how we can group organisms or objects based on similarities and differences. And the example I gave, if you remember, was we talked about a chair. I have a very crudely drawn chair here on the whiteboard. And I asked you guys for three characteristics that describe a chair. So you told me a backrest describes a chair, a cushion describes a chair, and chairs have 4 legs. This looks like 34, that's 4 legs. Now, if you remember, we can use these characteristics or these qualities to group chairs together, or we could list characteristics or qualities of a different thing and use that to group them together or separate a group of objects from each other or from other groups of objects, right? All right, so right now we're just getting into the cladogram creation part, and I want you guys to lead this. I want this to be a student-led discussion. I want you guys to act like even I don't necessarily know what's going on, and you guys are the experts here. So I want you to pick somebody from your group to come up here and write on the whiteboard, and then the other 2 members of the group, you guys are going to give them the answers, and you guys are going to talk about this. I might step in with a couple of questions, and if you guys have questions for me, just ask me. I'll just be standing over there in the corner.
Okay. Go for it, Andrew.
All right, sweet. All right, what came out first for the oldest candy bar?
Did you get Milky Way Midnight?
Yep, that's what I got.
That's what I got.
Midnight, all right.
Now, why are you putting it on the bottom one, Andrew?
Oh, because the bottom, that's where the oldest, where the oldest one goes.
Right.
This marker doesn't work. Okay, so I'm going to abbreviate that NWM.
Okay.
I don't want to interject too early, but Andrew, can you explain to them how time works on this cladogram? I see that you've got an arrow there that shows, but explain to your group members and the rest of the class how time works on this cladogram.
Okay. Well, so you start with a common species here, or a common candy bar in our case, and based on characteristics, it divulges into even more characteristics farther along, the farther time goes. Like, that's how evolution works, is that you'll have a certain characteristic appear here, and then another appear here, and another appear here as time moves forward. But the oldest is down here, so time moves up this way. But time also goes across as the species continue to, create more of themselves and populate, so that time actually goes obliquely like that.
So you're saying like the simplest characteristics are the oldest characteristics, and
Correct.
they get more complicated as.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Got Nestle Crunch.
Nestle Crunch, the next one.
Okay.
Then Twix.
Twix. That's Guard's favorite one, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, love me a Twix. Butterfinger next.
Okay, that's what I got as well. Okay.
What you got on this one?
I got Snickers.
Snickers next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Baby Ruth.
Okay. Now, is this one baby or babe?
Baby.
Babe. I don't know that one.
I think he's confusing with the baseball player.
Right, silly.
Did you get Three Musketeers for this one here?
Yep.
Okay.
And then Milky Way for the last one looks like.
Okay.
One of the most recent one.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
Good work, guys. So, based on what Andrew told you guys and what you learned yesterday in our lesson about cladograms, if this was an actual animal species and not just candy bars, because obviously with the information I gave you and really with the information I know, I don't know which candy bars are actually older. And so what I did is I sorted these out, the characteristics out by which candy bars I like the most. The ones I don't like as much are down here, and the ones I like more are up here.